Welcome back, Sean here, Mountains Garage. I am halfway through uncrating my new to me, just arrived yesterday, here in the yard. It's an ATK LQ4 6-liter LS, rated at 460 horse, 470 torque. The ATK part number is HP93. You can look it up on Jegs or Summit. You're going to see that they cost around $5,000, slightly less. A $560 core charge, plus your local taxes. Now, I hate talking money, and I often get barraged afterwards about people wanting to know what things cost. I need to get away from that. I always provide the information. In this case, I got such a deal. If I own it, I mean, why did I buy a crate motor? I'm the most unlikely person to buy a crate motor. So you just believe I got a wicked deal on it. It's all legit. Came direct from ATK. In fact, here's how it happened. If you're on Facebook, you have friends you've never met, even if you're in the same state. I'm friends with a cool dude that has a twin turbo Olds G-body wagon. And like I've said before, you cannot have too many car friends. And in this case, I had sold him some transmission parts and shipped them to him a few months ago. And Wednesday, I opened up Facebook looking for something else. I was checking Marketplace, and he had a listing that his place of business, which I didn't know, him and his dad have a auto parts place, new, used, and in between. And he said in the ad, or his post, I should say, it wasn't an ad, that his supplier of engines has a bunch they want to move. So there was a list of some small blocks and a couple Mopar engines, and at the very bottom, one sentence it said, Chevy LS LQ4 460/470 horsepower and torque. That's the one I was interested in. I sent him a message. He told me who the supplier was, ATK, which I'm familiar with because I'm on Jegs and Summit. And they're a remanufacturer of engines. They also, generic replacement ones. The HP line is high performance stuff. And they have an Elite line. I think the Elite line is probably all new stuff. They got some 632 big blocks. They got some more powerful stuff. But I wasn't shopping for an engine, but since I've had that Gearstar 4L80E that I'm going to swap to two-wheel drive in an upcoming video as promised, I've been dreaming of taking one of my many 4.8s or 5.3s I got around here, fresh out of the truck they came out of, and cleaning it all up and putting that in front of it, because either my 56 wagon or my 49 Chevy pickup is gonna drive like my LS Swap Dodge. There's nothing cooler than having an old car with a modern engine. Drives like a new one. So that has been the plan, of the many projects going on. And I am a fan of the LS. If you follow the channel, you know I started with big block Chevys. My first car had a big block in it. I kept that trend going for a couple decades. Never had any really good small blocks until recently. I've built a few, bought a few, have lots of parts for them. Went on a kind of a nostalgic craze because I had kind of swapped over to just hoarding LSs because at the time, 10 years ago, $300 to $500 got you a 150,000 mile or less around here. The truck's rot out, but the engines are still good. Complete takeout, computer and all. I got a shed full of them, a van full of them, and a bunch of parts everywhere. And then from those, I will, build engines for either from those, depending on the, outcome we're looking for. And the twin turbo LS that'll someday find its way into my Race 55, I'm going to actually take one of the blocks and put a forged rotating assembly in and build a really good one. But in this case, ahead of the 4L80E, I was just looking for a nice cruiser. 460 horses, more than I need. But I'm okay with that. Can you ever have too much? But my my point being, I love small blocks, I love big blocks, I love LS motors. They're all great. If small blocks and big blocks were ever built like these are, man, that would have been a great world. But these definitely have a lot going for them. So the plan is to uncrate it today. I've already dragged in an engine stand. I dragged it up by the door and blew all the hornets out of it and everything else, I hope. And I'm going to mount this up on there and take a look at it. I've already got it unwrapped somewhat. I can see that it has a brand new, of course, complete gasket set. I don't know why I have like a truck style pickup tube, but that's okay. The PCV line and a brand new Melling oil pump. So let's get her up on the stand and get a good look at it. But I almost forgot the best part. I bought it a week ago, paid for it. I got a message Friday night that the guy had met the truck driver, and it was actually here in Maine, up in Warren. Talking to my buddy Charlie, he says, hey, road trip. He picked me up in his dually yesterday morning. I have a Suburban with a lift gate, and they were worried that I got a loader with forks and they might hit the lift gate or something. So I got to ride all day in my buddy's beautiful dually. We picked up the engine, got a tour of the guy's facility. It's right outside of Rockland, Maine. We went to the Owl's Head Transportation Museum all before lunchtime. Lunchtime, we found one of the many seafood places on the way back and got lobster rolls. And I was back home here, unloaded, at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, an hour before the school bus even gets here. Now, if I had to be back at 2 o'clock, I never could have fit all that in. But that's what happened. It comes in a really nice crate. 2 bolts with brackets strap the engine to the lower unit. The upper piece just comes off with 4 screws, lag screws. The only casualty yesterday in my buddy's nice clean dually is some of this assembly oil, run oil, whatever it is, dripped down into his bed, but I cleaned it right up. So he told me I didn't have to, but I had to. That's what you do. The spread legs on the engine crane come in handy. They went right around the engine crate. But this style engine stand kind of butts heads with the engine crane, making it difficult to get that bolted up. But plan B worked quite well. Safely on the engine stand, I took a quick peek underneath, actually rolled it halfway over. I was just curious to see and hoping it didn't have like a bunch of sleeves in it. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but I'd prefer not to have them. And the beauty of a remanufactured engine is they machine every surface. So unlike your home LS build where you might run a hone through it and Scotch-Brite it and put it back together and they live a long life that way, in this situation they build it like new. I have all kinds of parts stashed everywhere. I have a few Holley intake manifolds. I have a Holley mid-ram that I'm probably going to use. In the LS Ram series of manifolds, Holley makes a ultra low ram, a low ram, a mid ram, and a high ram. I have a high ram and a mid ram. The high ram is the one you're most familiar with, everybody uses. The mid ram's kind of a odd duck. It is the inline low profile dual quad manifold like I have on the Model A, except it has ports for injectors. It has an adapter that bolts on with a 2 4-barrels would that tapers up to the ram top, the same ram top they use on all of them. So it's kind of an odd duck. This looks like a perfect use for it. I bought it with no intention of ever putting it on anything that I could think of right away. This is perfect. Again, this motor's not going to see boost. It could. It'll void its warranty, but by the time I get this thing installed and running in something, whatever it has for warranty, which I haven't even looked because I don't care, will probably be expired. So you might be wondering, how does an engine originally rated at 3 to 330 horsepower magically now make 460, and he must have really hopped it up. Nope. And here's why. Sit down for your history lesson of the day. Even I was young when this happened. For the 1972 model year, I was going to be 7 years old, but California lawmakers, in a rare instance, weren't trying to jam more emission stuff down your throat. They were upset that the auto manufacturers could lie or adjust the gross engine power to suit whatever application they were going to go in. Sometimes they said they had less power than they normally did, like the 69 Z28 rated at 290 horsepower, probably had more power than that. They would optimize on an engine dyno, much like you do, and this has been done on the engine dyno. This is a gross horsepower rating. For the 1972 model year, they said it had to be net rating, which means still on an engine dyno, not a chassis dyno, but it had to have all the accessory drive on it. It had to have the air cleaner, all the smog or whatever it had. That's how the engine needed to be tested, and the results had to be somehow verified accurate. So starting in 1972, they didn't have to do 50 state, but it was easier. And with the climate change going on, with the heyday of the muscle car, with all the high horsepower ratings, the first gas crunch in the early 70s, look it all up, this all happened. Emissions coming down, cat converters coming out in 74. There was a lot of hostile things happening for the auto manufacturers as it was, and they didn't fight it too hard. They just went, and overnight, most of the engines lost between 100 to 130 horsepower, from gross to net. So this was a net rated engine, now remanufactured in a facility or a company that they don't, if you read the fine print, they don't build engines to meet emissions. They build engines for hot rods, it says, if you read the fine print. So they don't verify it meets any emissions. And in my case, it's going in an old vehicle, so it doesn't matter. They can optimize it, and it's got a gross rating of 460. So let's just say it was stock at 300, and we magically, by going from net to gross, add 100 to 130. This is basically a stock 6-liter with a warmed over cam. The stock cam in a 6-liter was just 480 lift maybe. And from what I read online, they won't tell you the specs, but other people have cracked the code. It's got about a 560 lift cam in it. The paperwork says it'll have a noticeable idle, whatever that means. I've heard some people, showing tailpipe videos, and it sounds pretty nice. Factory 6-liter with 9.4 something to 1 compression. This is rated at 9.5, so it's probably got the stock piston in it. Absolutely nothing spectacular. It probably has a good valve job, but it's got 317 heads. There's no magic there. Just a stock rebuilt 6-liter with a warmed over cam. The HP series, they claim instead of mass producing, they hand assemble, whatever that means. So here it is anyway. It's an awesome deal, and that's why it seems like it has a lot of power, because that's a gross rating. So off and on, when I get parts, I'm going to come back and we'll be putting them on here and discuss all the different options, because I have been collecting LS parts for quite a while, and I have the ability to show you some differences and stuff that might make a difference to you. This morning I've been researching valve covers. I just wanted, originally just a stock set of valve covers that I didn't have to clean. Mostly I want to be sure that under the shields there's not a lot of debris. I've cleaned them in the past. I'll probably clean up another set for this because I haven't found anything I want to use yet. I want to retain the PCV system. It's a street engine. I'm going to be idling and light throttle driving all the time. I want to get rid of the moisture in the oil. There's nothing detrimental to the PCV system. You just don't need it on a race car because at wide open throttle, it doesn't work. It needs vacuum sucking on the PCV valve. When you floor this engine with your PCV system operational, the clean air inlet that is sucking fresh air in on the opposite valve cover becomes your vent, and it actually vents up into the intake because PCV system shuts right off. You got pressure, it has to go somewhere, so it actually goes up into the intake. So that's that. Or if you put a breather on it, it would just breathe outside, but most of the time that breather is pulling in air, it's not breathing out. So, second lesson of the day, I guess. I've covered that one before. But anyway, we'll compare oil pans and you name it, everything to make this thing run in the future coming up. So have a great day. Talk to you soon.